Yeah. So hey everyone, looks like we're live. How are you today?
Good. How you guys doing? Good to see you again.
Mate, it's great to have you back, and so quickly as well.
Yes, sir. Yeah, our last chat, of course, we had some mix-ups with some of the tech stuff and all that, but hey, it gave us an opportunity to connect again and re-record. So, and perfect timing right before the holidays in 2019 coming up. So,
yes, sir. Yeah. Well, hopefully we've got some more opportunities for people to, to ask more questions. And I know there was a few not say controversial points, but it was a point that you made where you just give everything away for free and just to pull the traffic in. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely something we're gonna sort of expand on and touch on a bit more there.
Yeah, let's definitely involve the audience today.
Absolutely.
This is gonna be probably our last live stream for the year. So if you guys are watching us live, then this is the best time to ask your questions. We've got Patty McGill here, who's an expert when it comes to all things Thinkific and marketing. And we've got Trevor here, who's an expert with all that as well, with his own courses and LinkedIn specifically, and just a massive amount of success, even on the entrepreneurship level. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, drop them in. We'd also love to hear kind of where you guys are from and what you guys teach.
Definitely. Yeah, so let us know where you're from, what it is you're teaching right now. Trevor, I know we've just been talking before we went live about events that you're going to next year, but what's coming up on the horizon for 2019 for you and your business?
Yeah, well, event-wise, traffic and conversion is a big one that we always go to, and we were talking about, should you even buy a ticket? I personally haven't bought a ticket for 2-3 years because it's just there's so much going on. There's so many people that show up to these events. The networking is really what it's all about. That's not to say there's a lot of value there's not a lot of value in the events themselves, because there certainly is, but that's one that I definitely won't miss. And then we have a few live events that we're planning ourselves. So the first 3 months are really just going to be busy and servicing clients and running our own events, and then attending that one in February.
That's an interesting point, and I think sometimes, if someone perhaps doesn't have either the funds or the liquid funds available right now to go and buy a ticket for an event, but maybe you've got enough to get down to wherever it is on a flight or drive down, then there's definitely an opportunity to go and network with like-minded and similar people in your circle. So I want to touch on about LinkedIn. So there's a lot, obviously, LinkedIn seems to be having this renaissance effect. Everyone seems to be getting back into LinkedIn now and using it as a way of creating new leads and new business. Obviously, I know this is pretty much old news for you because you're one of the OGs of the LinkedIn community.
Yeah.
And obviously creating LinkedIn influence. How many people have you got, or how many people have you had sort of go through that course from?
Linked Influence was the first one that was launched. Of course, for those of you that are watching on live or replay, you might be familiar with it. It was actually originally launched by Lewis Howes. And not to get into a big long story, but Lewis and I connected as a result of that program because I registered that domain, linkedinfluence.com, well before either one of us thought about actually launching a course, because I thought, one day I'll probably do that. And then we just managed to kind of meet in the middle around some sports and social media stuff that we were both doing. And we did a deal where I worked directly with Lewis and ran his sports recruiting website for 4 years and gave up the domain in return. And him and his business partner launched that program. And, I basically came back in full circle and became the lead trainer for that program about 4 years in type thing. And to date, I think we had almost 26,000 people purchase that program. And we no longer sell it right now. We're in the middle of kind of redoing some things currently. So it was a bit outdated. So we were like, let's just pull it off the shelf and we'll revisit it later. But yeah, massively successful. Had a ton of people go through it, a lot of success stories. And, it was really geared at the time for helping people with personal branding and landing a job, really. That was kind of the focal point of that program.
What do you see now as sort of 2019's big thing for LinkedIn? Is it everyone's going to be using video, or do you still think maybe it's another year or two ahead?
Yeah, no, I actually saw it. I think it's you, Rob, that's doing a little challenge for people with LinkedIn video. And I think that's brilliant, man. I don't know if you guys saw, but within the last week, Gary Vaynerchuk, who can be very polarizing in his opinions about entrepreneurship and everything else, but I don't know why I happened to watch it either, because usually, I'll catch one of his things once in a while, but I try and stay out of the hustle and the rah-rah and just focus on doing as opposed to like having to build myself up. But anyways, I just happened to watch this one by Gary the other day, and he was talking about how big LinkedIn is going to be in 2019, specifically around organic content, which, to be perfectly honest, hasn't been the case up until now. And video in particular being a big part of that. And I really think what it ties back to, though, because it's just another platform. It's just another way to distribute your content. It all comes back to the storytelling and the mission and the vision of your company. If you can really dial in your customer audience and know that you're creating content that it truly adds value, LinkedIn just becomes a great source to put that in front of the right people, because it is such a business-focused networking site. So it's exciting to think what's coming down the pipe here, and I'll join in your challenge as well. Like, I think everybody should. To be honest, it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge in 2019.
Huge, yeah,
huge.
Yeah, no, I mean, me and Patty have been on LinkedIn, and we're fairly active, and I think it's a great platform for just the organic reach of it is still, it's
very untapped.
It's very untapped, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And videos, especially, they're a little bit behind, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but definitely a good thing as far as opportunities, for experts and coaches and content creators and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Really like reach their audiences there, right?
Yeah. I'll also mention this too. One of the other things that I'm seeing myself, and you see a lot of the gurus out there that are speaking about this too, though, but we're potentially on an economic downturn here, and you might see more and more people start to dive into consultancy or coaching or whatever it might be. Maybe they're losing their jobs. Maybe they're just finally like, okay, this is the year. There's definitely a saturation of people in that space too, whatever the topic happens to be. It's getting harder and harder to differentiate yourself. So your own personal story, as well as you having some type of a methodology and a process that you can really root yourself around in, and getting very specific with who you support, almost to a granular level where a lot of times people don't want to like be that specific, but doing that in 2019 and creating content around it will certainly help the cream rise to the top. I have no doubt about it. And that's why we're all in on our content strategy in 2019 too. And LinkedIn will be a big part of it. We'll continue to do everything else that we're doing as far as direct messaging on LinkedIn, because that's kind of the bread and butter of how LinkedIn works. But the content's it'll be interesting to see how it all rolls out.
So you're doing a lot of direct messaging to your potential connections and to second, third party connections. Is there any things you should absolutely be doing when reaching out to people, and things that you definitely shouldn't be doing? Yeah,
for sure. I've got actually here. Why don't I just send this to you? I'll just send it over to you real quick, Rob, in Messenger. But if people want to go and download this, I've got a resource called the Solo Funnel.
Yep.
And it's just solofunnel.com. There you go. I just popped it into the chat there.
Perfect.
But essentially what I speak to in that graphic is kind of the methodology and the approach that a person should take in using LinkedIn from a best practice standpoint. And if I was to summarize it best, it's really about understanding that you have an existing network. Likely most people have been building their network of prospects or potential partners or advocates or whatever it might be. And that's the place everybody should start. And then, of course, look at it from a prospecting perspective, from a second and third degree approach. But as far as messaging goes, there's just kind of one cardinal rule on it, which is, be helpful and don't spam people. Reach out to people the way that you would want to be reached out to, which really kind of hammers home my philosophy on not using automation to be able to get real results from this, because there's a desire by people to want to automate everything nowadays. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to business in particular, if you're selling any kind of a service that's a higher ticket thing that requires you to be working one-on-one with people, which is what our bread and butter is, those relationships mean everything. So, you use an automation tool and send a message out to your audience, and it goes out to them 8 times by accident with high first name on it, and you've just ruined every single potential relationship. It's just not worth it. So, we've found ways around that to be able to scale without fully automating through virtual assistants. And yeah, it's really quite simple. And that's why, and you mentioned it at the start here, Patty, that's we give away everything. there's no secrets about our business. If you want to like completely funnel hack what we do, I actually did a training on this like 3 days ago. Completely broke down every single funnel that we have with every landing page and every message and every ad attached to it, and just showed people, because I know that if I can empower people with the understanding of the what and the why, that the how is what they come to us for, because they know we got this dialed in. You know, we've been doing it for 8 years now. So it's our philosophy, and I stand by it, which kind of leads to the online course side of things too, and how you can be capturing leads still and like nurturing people on a journey.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, it's really interesting, because that's actually like when we were talking about you've got to find your USP or your unique proposition.
Yeah,
that is it. Like, you're actually giving it pretty much all away, everything for free.
Yeah,
you're getting very precise about what the methods are. It's not just like, here's a 5-point tick a box PDF. It's like, here's a full absolutely everything.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's about the implementation is what people come to for. So that's, I think, actually a really interesting way to put it, and definitely people out there that are perhaps trying to figure out how to use LinkedIn or how to monetize their LinkedIn audience. This could really be a great way to do it.
Yeah, we got a question here.
Yeah,
you want to read that?
Yeah.
But let's say hello to Anne.
Yeah.
Hey, Anne, thanks for joining us. Dan Norton, our
Dan.
good friend over there in New Jersey. Hey, and Judy as well. Thanks for joining us. Anne's got a question there.
Anne's got a question. She's got 3,000 LinkedIn connections, but she's never had success with conversions on there. I sell courses to the legal profession. What can we do to convert connections on there? I've definitely got an answer to that, but Trevor, I'll let you go first on that, mate.
Sure. Yeah. Well, 3,000 connections is not a small list, which is what it is. It's a list, right? Like, when you connect with people on LinkedIn, you're essentially building a list. So we hear the term all the time, like the value's in the list, the money's in the list, right? Well, you're building a list. So first and foremost, good on you for being proactive in doing that. As far as an approach to sell an online course to the legal profession, well, LinkedIn gives you the ability to very fine tune your targeting, especially if you're using a tool like Sales Navigator to really dig deep on that. As far, everything from like what level they're at within the legal firm, who's likely to buy that course. The rest of it really comes down to just having a well planned out messaging strategy that isn't shoving something down somebody's throat. Nobody wants to be sold to on LinkedIn. They want to, because everybody's self-serving interest on being on LinkedIn is to either build their skill set or to advance their career. So if you have a way to be able to educate people to help them do those things, they're going to trust you. And if they trust you, they're going to see you as an expert or an authority. And where your online course comes in is really, and I can't remember all the 5 points, but I know Marie Forleo spoke about this at one point, like the value of actually selling information in an organized way. Is the number one way was just that, you can Google anything. Like, you can go and watch all my free stuff that's all over the internet, but like pulling all those pieces together, knowing like, how do you pull together a 6-month messaging strategy? How do you know what content to actually give people to make them want to open it, to actually engage with it, to make them want to reach out to you, to land on your page and sign up for your course? That's the art. And the only way to do it is to really be proactive with it too, and just start that outreach and map out a good messaging strategy. That would be my main advice I'd give.
That's some really good advice. Yeah, 100%. How does I've got a question here, a sort of follow-up question with that, Trevor. How does someone go about, because like LinkedIn for the longest time has been about it's almost like an online resume for the longest time, and that obviously seems to be changing. How does one go about now sort of changing that, so then someone like Anne could then better serve her connections and audience base?
Yeah, well, it all starts with the profile, right? And you have to know that nobody's looking for you on LinkedIn. You have to do the work to actually go and find the people you want to connect with and put yourself in front of them. And then from there, attention spans of people are, as the term goes, probably less than goldfish nowadays, right? About 8 seconds if you're lucky. So it's important that profile really speaks to who you serve, how you serve them, why they should trust you, and how they can find out more. If you can address those things in your background photo, in your headline, and your summary, you're going to find that it makes it a lot easier to communicate exactly and basically use your LinkedIn profile like a sales page. In fact, like, I'll just keep firing some resources at you guys here because we got a ton of stuff on this, but I got another one that's basically a profile training course that's not in a membership site per se, but it's like 7 videos that you can use that'll give you a good starting point on this kind of stuff.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
really appreciate
send
it.
that over. We've Trevor, we
There
got
you go.
Yeah, if you're okay, we've got
Amazing.
another really good question here from Ali. Hey Ali, thanks for joining us. She's saying that she's just about to launch her first course, needs to learn about building a network on LinkedIn, and don't know where to start. So do you have any quick points on if somebody is like, let's say, going after, maybe Ali, let us know who you're going after as far as the target audience.
Yeah.
And maybe based on that, how can someone start building a network, connecting with them in sort of like a low friction way? Do you essentially like search, job titles and then start, connecting, or saying hello in the direct messages? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say, to give the most value possible here without getting into all of the nitty gritty details.
Yep.
The pillar of your LinkedIn profile and the foundational part of that is that you want to make sure that you are addressing your audience and their pain points. Your LinkedIn profile should not be about you and your accomplishments and your CV, your resume. It should be addressing the challenges and the problems of the people that you serve. What are they facing? And then how can you help them solve those things? Because the more you can relate to them and their pains, the more you'll start to allow them to want to learn more, which is what leads them down a path naturally to an online course, right? And it's why we've used that as a foundation for the last 8 years too, is, you have to see LinkedIn not as a sales tool, but rather a marketing tool, right? It's an awareness building tool more than anything. So, your messaging is everything when it comes to this stuff.
Got it.
Yeah.
So your messaging. So it's really your profile and really addressing. I like what you said there, that your profile is not about you. It's about like how you can help your target audience. I think Ali has responded here that she is a life coach and teaching everything from goal setting to procrastination. Maybe dig a little bit deeper, Ali. Like, who are you looking to then help? Like, are you looking to help specifically like entrepreneurs? Stay-at-home moms? Like, what are those? What is that like avatar?
Yeah. So so think about that person that is always coming up to you asking that same question time and time again. How do I stop myself from procrastinating, or how do I set goals in my business? And then maybe like actually just write down all their attributes and do it again. And this can get, I know Trevor, you may disagree with this, but you can definitely like write this like again and again. Each time you speak to people, go, okay, so were they like male, female? Were they in this sort of age category? Did they have, do we know that they had an interest in X, Y, or Z? And then you can start like mapping that out, who potentially is going to be your customer avatar. But start looking at who he's come up to and asking those questions time and time again. But if you haven't got that, then I would just say jump into groups and see, and go into like business-based groups and look for those questions, or even jump into places like Quora. And then you could link back to your LinkedIn account for people to go and see more things about your profile, what you do.
Yeah. I just put another link there for you guys to share. It's called My Story Brand. It's a free resource that the guys at Story Brand have created that really help you kind of dig deep into what you're talking about, Patty, which is, who is that avatar, and get like specific about it. Like, Ali, if you're a life coach, as you guys said, like, do you support entrepreneurs? Is that kind of your target audience? Because you know that entrepreneurs are constantly burning out all over the place. Do you support women in particular? Or maybe it's men? Who knows, right? But the more specific you can get, the more actionable it'll be for those people that'll visit your profile too. And it comes back to what I said at the start of this, especially leading into 2019, because of the fact that there's tools like Thinkific to make it so easy to build a course. Not to give you guys a massive plug, but seriously though, you have to differentiate yourself, and you have to get polarizing in the way that this is who I serve, and almost be willing and wanting to be able to say no more than you say yes to people.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at with our stuff too. Like, we know that we best support solopreneurs that are selling business to business services, typically higher ticket, which can be a lot of things, but like $2 to $5, 10, 15, $20,000 a month, or packages, that type of thing. And they struggle with three things: technology, team, they're a one man or one woman show, and time. They're doing a million things and they don't know where to focus their time and efforts on.
Yep.
The average customer that we work with, the average student in our program, is probably in their 50s at least. We have a few people in their 40s, but there's nobody younger than that usually, because we're so focused on the tech side. I find that people younger than me, even, I'm 42, but they kind of grew up with technology, whereas people that are a little older, they didn't. So it's a massive hurdle for them to overcome. And we've tailored our training and our support and our mentorship around that, because we know that, like, if they can't get past the basics of building a landing page and integrating a calendar system to be able to book calls, they're dead in the water, right? They can't even start. So that's helped us separate ourselves too, because there's a million people that are doing what we do too, right? And it's just a matter of really getting fine-tuned with that audience. And I would suggest Ali and everybody else to do the same thing.
I was just going, how do you know that you found like a big enough audience? What's like, because you could get really specific. How do you know that you found something that's big enough?
Well, with LinkedIn, one of the things with the platform is that, of course, it's a pay-to-play platform when you start really truly utilizing it as a marketing tool. So in order to get the most out of it and proactively use it, you need to be upgrading to a tool like Sales Navigator. And that would be the one that I would recommend. It's like $80 a month. So, it's not cheap, but consider it like your internet bill. It's just a requirement of business. It's like gas in your car, And as far as the audience size, on average, typically you can only be sending like 50 to 75 connection requests a day before you start maxing out and start hitting limits. So based on those numbers, if we use the low number of 50, you can't even send more than 1,000 connection requests a month. But knowing, the trickle down effect from that, like how many people will accept your connection request if you send 1,000? Well, we see on average maybe 30, 40, sometimes as high as 50%. It depends on how specific you are and relatable, and what is your authority and your background and your credibility and all that. There's a lot of variables in there. But you can consistently be doing that every single month. So imagine the buildup on that, right? If you did that every single month for the next year and you converted, say, on the low end of 30%, that's 300 new leads every single month. People that you can now direct message as though you're building an email list. Like there's so much training on how to build an email list, but like LinkedIn's already there. You know how to go and find them. When you connect with them, you basically created a direct communication method. The challenge that people have is that there's no way to like one-click mass message your connections on LinkedIn. So it becomes a bit of a manual process. But if you're doing things right, you're going to focus on quality, not quantity anyways. And the key, and this is one of the secret sauce things that we've built, is that we've got an amazing virtual assistant team and a team of mentors that help people through that process so that they don't have to do that work. Remember, the middle one of challenge for our audience is team. They're doing everything. And the last thing that you need to be doing is sending 50 connection requests a day. It's just not worth your time. And anybody that's watching this, right, there's so many resources available to you to scale that in an ethical way. So.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think it's really important to like look at ways to scale it. Like definitely don't use bots like you were saying earlier. I think bots are it's kind of like that bad word around there, but especially on LinkedIn, just because it's so personal on LinkedIn. If you start using bots and that very first time that one person gets that same message again, like a bot message, you're pretty much counting yourself out, right?
Yeah, instantly.
Yeah. But I think what you're mentioning here, and what you're kind of alluding to, is using scaling using virtual assistants, which are like actual people that are on your team. So it's a good way to do that. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I just talked to one of our students today, not even related to LinkedIn. He was just having troubles with his websites and his integration with Infusionsoft and email tools and that type of thing. And he was telling me about his experience in the last 2 years, even, of hiring and working with virtual assistants, and it's been very painful for him. And I totally relate. Like, I don't know if you guys have gone down this path, but like I'll bet you I've hired 50 VAs in the last 5 years, and I have 5 that are working full time for me right now that are awesome. But It's taken 45 frogs to kiss along the way in order to find those five, those five good ones. And a lot of times people don't have that time to waste, right? So it gets really frustrating, but it's just like the philosophy in business around anything to do with your business, be slow to hire and quick to fire. And it goes for VAs too. And there's tricks to doing that. Like this is some of the stuff that we teach and we actually support our students on, is like how to go and find, qualify, screen, hire, train, manage, and then qualify out really fast virtual assistants, because it's critical in today's world to not be leveraging the fact that there's really talented people overseas and even in North America or in Europe or whatnot too, that are fairly inexpensive but can earn a very good living in their part of the world. You're crazy not to take advantage of that now. So it's a skill that somebody should definitely build, right? To know how to find and hire and train and manage a VA. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we were just talking with Jeff Hunter,
the king of outsourcing.
Outsourcing.
Yeah.
Yeah, great guy. And yeah, we're just talking all about like how he does everything. And I mean, he's still at the heart of it. It's still his like content.
Yeah.
So it's just, repurposing that content and chopping up the videos and all those things. He outsources that, but
well, and Jeff, I believe Jeff actually offers a service to help people with that too. So, and the easiest way to explain this for anybody that's thinking like, oh man, I want to get a virtual assistant, is you can pay a company like Jeff's like $10, $12 an hour to get a VA to do just about any kind of service that you want, or you can go out and you can find your own for probably a third of the cost. But massive but. It comes with the headaches of finding, hiring, training, keeping accountable, all those things. So even at 3 times the cost of $10, $12 an hour, if that's something new to you and it gives you stresses, don't even think twice about it. Like if you can hire a video editor through one of these VA service companies at $12 an hour, and it might cost you $50 to have somebody with the same skill in North America, like why would you not do that? It's just crazy not to, right?
Yeah, totally. And don't underestimate it, because we were again, another guest, Dan Norton. Remember, he was saying,
he's live.
What's up, Dan? If you're there, another really good content creator, Justin Brown from Australia, hired a virtual assistant to do all of his video editing. He's a big YouTube guy. And then he started getting comments like, hey, I really love your new editing style and everything. And he got compliments from it. So now it's, a lot of the virtual assistants are very much underestimated with their talents, and they do a lot of really good work. So.
And based on like the experiences that we've had, we obviously do a lot of webinars, a lot of lives, and there's like we have like a pretty much a standard operating procedure for getting a webinar set up internally. And Trevor, we went through the same thing. We just had to find the right people. We found eventually like using like screen recorders, like use Loom and stuff like that, where you can just do it you can just do it yourself for once and just make sure you cover all those details, and then it's like there's almost like no excuse, because someone can just watch that, pause it, rewind it, and
totally
back and forward. We want that to be a really good way to get people up to speed. So if you're not using it, like if anyone out there that's wants to pay to train some staff, that's definitely a great tool to use.
Another bit of advice I'd give people too in like managing VAs around that point is we use a tool called Slack, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with. And when we have questions or we want to put together procedure documents, we'll use Loom to record. And then we just make sure that we title that video and the comment that we're putting into a stream in Slack very keyword specific, because you can search anything in Slack, right? And it pops up. So you're basically creating a knowledge base, which used to be super hard to do because you needed some like third-party intranet system that was behind the scenes. And like now you can just literally, like my team knows that if a question comes up and we know that it's probably going to be asked again, that they need to record that video with the intent on people being able to watch it evergreen 3 months from now, because we know that question's coming up. And what it does is it just creates efficiencies in our business too, right? Because you don't ever have to do anything twice. You accomplish it with the one time and make it easy to find things. So that's huge for sure. I see Dale said there too. Yes, agreed. Too many people cheap out and learn the hard way.
Yeah,
man.
Dale.
Yeah. I like Dale. What a nice guy.
Yeah, really cool story. Like one way, like again, I think it was Jeff or Katya Sarmiento. So she said that like, going back to your mention of SOP, which is standard operating procedure, she didn't even make it herself. She basically recorded her screen of her like doing her like, you know, video editing, sent it off to the VA. They did the SOP, and then they started focusing on that SOP. So literally all she did was like do it that one last time, and then that was the last time she ever had to do it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, really brilliant. Yeah,
just be smart. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Trevor, like, what do you think about using something like Loom as like a way to introduce yourself via LinkedIn? Do you find that that's a great way to do it, or like, you know, just recording a video, so not even writing a message, typing up messages?
Do you mean as like a direct message to somebody?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's actually something that's on my radar to consider here for 2019. There's an extra level of work if you just start thinking from a scalable perspective of like how much work it might be to do videos. But of course, the level of personalization is huge. Like one of the things that we teach people when it comes to implementing what I shared with you guys there around the solo funnel is that everybody should have an appointment campaign, right? Which is to just get somebody on your calendar, make it easy for them. Use a tool like Calendly, schedule once, whatever it might be. And we encourage people to get on camera and actually just record a 30-second video. Hey, thanks for being on this page. If you're here, it's likely because we connected on LinkedIn. And I'd love to be able to chat with you to find out your biggest challenges you're facing in your business. On this call, we'll address point 1, point 2, point 3. You can go ahead and book down below. And that level of connection is like instant, right? They're not guessing like, what is this person? How does this person present themselves on camera? How do they speak? Do I feel like I can trust them just based on their body language? Like there's so many little things in the value of video. So yeah, we'll definitely consider that. The other thing that I noticed is a feature in LinkedIn recently too, is the ability to record audio through the mobile app. So if you connect with somebody, you can pop on a message and just like, you know, record a quick audio recording as well too. So yeah, both of those things are things we're going to consider. Everything that we do is always considered with personalization and connection in mind. And then how can we actually scale this? Because, you know, you only have so many hours in a day too. So
yeah, that's definitely the tricky thing. I mean, it worked well for us. We reached out to you and sort of slight personal story. Reached out to YouTube. Yeah. I've always admired guys called Miles Beckler. Very much just doing all his content is free on YouTube. Definitely go and check out. The guy's actually amazing. And I was just like, it was a bit of like, well, let's just see if it's going to work. I'm just going to send him a quick video, and it was like, hey mate, big fan of your channel. But we're running a Facebook Live, and you know, we'd love to have you on and see how you could help our audience, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And yeah, like 10 minutes later, mate, just emailed me back. He's like, great video. I've booked a call for tomorrow. So yeah, like I think it definitely worked. But like you said, like that whole like scalability can definitely get a bit tricky.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that, and this just comes from working with a lot of solopreneurs in the last like 6 months in particular, and seeing what their fears are, is that a lot of times people are really scared to get on video. It's kind of funny, but it's something that they have to work through and get over. And the one thing that I like to tell people is that, and I said this in a presentation that I did a couple of weeks ago locally in Vancouver here at the Internet Masterminds event, that you're going to fail more than you succeed in business, and you have to be willing to and wanting to fail in order to get to that next level, which just speaks to the fact that, and it's no different with LinkedIn messaging. If you reach out to 1,000 people, you're only going to hear from maybe 30-40%, which means that more than half are not even responding to you. It doesn't mean they're not listening, it just means they're not responding to you. And I like to use sports analogies because of my background, but like, you know, if you hit 300 in baseball, you're in the Hall of Fame. It's the same thing with what you're doing on LinkedIn. You get 30% responses. You've got 300 new people that have now engaged in a conversation and are willing to see what you have to offer the world. So, you know, we have to have thicker skin in today's social world of hearing, you know, no or not hearing anything at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love sports analogies too, man. So probably go on all about that. Yeah. So
for sure.
No, that's great. So yeah, don't be afraid to use videos to like really engage and shoot those messages out there. We've got a question here on YouTube Live. And again, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. We're going to be answering them today. David Adams is wondering, are there any online courses on choosing and working with VAs? You guys
I can't think of one. I can't think of any, but I know there's a few. This is going to take me right back. There's definitely a few Thinkific users that have got that. So what I'd say, David, if you're in our Facebook community, head on over into it and just drop that question in there. And let people get back to you on there. I'd say that's probably the best thing to do.
That's good.
And you just created an opportunity for somebody to create a course on that if it doesn't exist.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like there's lots of stuff that I know out there that have elements of that included, including our mentoring program, but something specific around, and this goes back to like dialing in the avatar. So, instead of creating an online course that's like how to hire a virtual assistant to run your life, how about just how to hire a virtual assistant to be able to create killer content, killer video content in 2019, and make it super specific about how you go and find, hire, train, manage, give tests to, and hire and fire really fast so that you can find a killer video editor. Like most people would pay money for that even, or even just give it away. Like last time when we started this, I'm an advocate for like, just give it away, and then sell the transformation and the execution and the implementation. That's really kind of what we've focused on. And that may change in the coming months here too, because we're seeing a lot of people that still want to actually pay for the organized structure of an online course too. So we're watching our business kind of evolve over time here too. It's kind of, a few things have changed in my mind since the last time we all talked, about a month ago even too.
Yeah, it moves really fast, man. So
it does. Yeah.
That's good. Got a really good question here. Actually, more of a comment. Dale on Facebook Live is saying, "I'd love to see live videos on LinkedIn."
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, me too.
I think that would. Yeah, me too. I'd love to see that. I mean, it probably will happen just because all the other platforms have live videos. I mean, Twitter has live videos. Instagram, Facebook, they all have live video aspects. So
yeah,
I don't see LinkedIn coming too far behind. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree for sure. And the other thing I would say about that too is that, without having to be the early adopter on everything, because we've seen this, like people we're touting, different tools like, I can't even remember the name of it now. What's the one? Snapchat, right? So Snapchat was huge, right? And people jumped all over it and then it just died, right? But there is opportunities when these platforms come up. Like as soon as LinkedIn does launch the live video aspect, it is going to be huge. But what's going to allow you to fully leverage it is to get your messaging and your target audience dialed in, which is why everybody needs to start there. That's why we shared the My Story brand. That's why we focus the major part of the first part of our mentoring program around what we refer to as the expert mission. So like dialing in, what is your personal vision and your values? What does your customer avatar look like and what are their values? Is there alignments? And then of course, what is your business values and your offer? Because if you don't have all that dialed in, the rest of it doesn't matter, right? You're going to go and we see this a lot. People end up with hundreds of responses from LinkedIn messages and then getting phone calls lined up and then they freeze because they don't know what to sell. They don't have a true offer, So therefore they can't even build content around it to drive traffic to a very specific audience. So, do the work now. And then when those kind of things launch, you're armed and ready. You've got a list of topics that you can do. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like as soon as live video goes on LinkedIn, like I'm all in with about 250 pieces of content, right? Yeah. It's just, it's go time, right? But I've spent the last year dialing that in. And a lot of times you don't see the instant ROI from it, but it's huge. And you gotta make sure it's aligned with what you truly want to be doing, what you love, and not just about the money too.
Yeah,
good point.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? Like, I think people should be getting, even with a lot of people obviously wanting the live, but just start taking the action now.
Yeah.
And getting your videos out there. Once you've dialed in that customer avatar and your message.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got any more questions.
There's a comment here actually. It's Ali. Hey Ali. Trevor, she's wondering, will you connect with our viewers? Ali just sent you a LinkedIn invite, so.
Of course.
Yeah. There you go.
There's my LinkedIn right there.
Perfect.
And give me some context to the fact that you were here too. I always like to see that, and it's actually one of the tips that I would give people is that take the extra second or two to customize your connection request even too, and make it inviting in the way that you're not trying to force your way into somebody's network just to try and pitch them and sell them something. Not saying that you're doing that, Ali, but when I see that, like, hey, I just saw you on the Thinkific live stream, I'll remember who you are, and I can actually send you some direct resources that I think would best help you too. And to be perfectly honest, Ali, like we probably are not the best fit with what we sell for what you do, but I know that I can point you in the right direction of things that would work for you. And again, that comes back to what I keep saying, guys, which is like, we say no more than we say yes now to the people we talk to. Like my inbox is filled. I've got an assistant that basically manages 98% of my LinkedIn inbox because I just can't keep up with it. But she's instructed to take a look and see, like, can we serve this person? If yes, then it's our duty to make sure that we can best support them as possible, which a lot of times is getting them into our mentoring program. And if we can't, point them somewhere else that eliminates the confusion, because there's a lot of stuff out there. You can spend 10 years spinning your tires watching training videos and going through courses and not implementing. And I've been through it. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on online courses and mentorships and masterminds and everything else. And it'll burn you out and make you broke really fast. So
yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. I want to go back a little bit. And Ali said that you have a mutual connection, so that's awesome. And she hasn't sell yet. So I think I want to ask you a question about that as well. But I want to ask, kind of going back, you said that, like, come up with an offering, right? So when you're creating content and stuff, come up with an offering. And so if they're, for example, Ali and a lot of other people out there, they're on LinkedIn, they may not have like that, like, offering, they don't have like a landing page set up or anything.
Yeah.
What other than like, hey, just like make one, like, what are some, some thoughts that maybe they can run through their head before? Because then if you don't have an offer, it makes sense that, like, what you're saying is, like, you don't have an offer, what are you doing on LinkedIn other than like connecting and having conversations?
Yeah.
You don't have anything to offer, to sell. So
yeah. Well, first thing I would say is that don't wait to have your offer before you start connecting and building relationships. Just focus on value first, right? Like, even if you can be helpful with that network that you're building, or even if you're just connecting with people and then letting that relationship sit until you do have things dialed in, at least you've built up the network. Because again, with LinkedIn, you have to connect with somebody directly to actually message them for free. Otherwise, you're paying for in-mails, and it's just not an effective strategy, right? It's like basically pushing a cold email into somebody's inbox. So, start now. And this is a major roadblock that we work with a lot of students that we have too, is they'll say, "Ooh, my website's not ready. I'll start when?" Or, "Oh man, as soon as I get that webinar done." And like, it's the biggest mistake you can possibly make, because if you're always waiting for that next thing that you think is the reason why somebody would actually work with you, you're going to be stopped before you start. So, don't worry so much about the offer, but as far as like dialing it in, it's really about getting into a program like ours or other ones that are similar for different audiences, because this is what we focus on. We help people define that kind of stuff. And for you, Ali, knowing that, Ali says, "I've agreed. I've watched 1 million training videos and now I'm just confused." Do you know how many calls I get on with people that tell me how much money they've spent, or the fact that they've invested in previous trainings or mentorships and they just spun their tires forever? Like, tons of them. It's an epidemic. It really is. And like, Ali, knowing the little bit about you right now, as far as you being a life coach, like, I would recommend you go and check out Clients on Demand. Go check out what those guys are doing, because like they specialize in working with people selling business to consumer, B2C. And there's a lot of health coaches, life coaches, people that are working directly one-on-one with people, not necessarily from a business standpoint, even though you would work potentially with business professionals. But, it's programs like that that have an established credibility, where they'll not only work with you on the offer creation and the technical aspect and the pages and the ads and all that kind of stuff, but they're also going to help you with the mindset side of it, which is a big part of what we do. It wasn't when we started. And then we started to see that everybody had the same challenges, which was self-doubt, imposter syndrome, why would anybody listen to me type thing, and getting past that and realizing that you have value to offer this world is the first step. And the other thing I would say about that, not to kind of rant about these, but you guys know me, I like to rant on stuff.
Yeah, it's all good.
Is that's never going to change either. Like, I have the same feelings. I have feelings of imposter syndrome every day. I have feelings of wanting to be a perfectionist as opposed to just getting it done. It doesn't end, but you have the ability within to actually change your mindset, to keep pushing through those barriers, and know that if you're feeling that stuff, it means that you're leveling up. And that's what's really helped me in reframing all this, is that every time I start to feel comfortable with where I'm at, I go, you're not trying hard enough. You know, you got to feel uncomfortable with where you're at. You got to get on bigger stages. You got to write a book and put your words out into the world, or a guide, or whatever it might be. You got to get on video and have somebody criticize you. You got to start getting haters. You got to get people that, you know, will try and fight you on your philosophies and your methodologies, because the truth is that there's no specific right or wrong. It's just pick an opinion, stick by it, be as polarizing as you're comfortable with, and adapt. Be willing to say when you're wrong too, or when you've stumbled. Just be transparent about it. And that's what I've been trying to do the last 8 months, is just show people, like, look, you know, like, behind the veiled wall here, like, our stuff isn't all perfect, but you know what? Like, we're committed to transformation, and we're committed to that with our students too, because we know that we're all a work in progress. We're all a constant work in progress, right? So, rant over.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's really good. Ali's saying, you know, Trevor, you're saying what I'm thinking. Why would people listen to me? And I will do it though. I'm determined. So awesome, Ali. Yeah, like, yeah, that's fantastic. We'd love to connect with you as well. So
yeah,
Patrick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'd love to kind of see what you're up to, and yeah, feel free to connect with us as well. No, I like what you're saying. You know, don't be afraid to like really go out there, because if you don't have, like, I think it was Greg, our CEO. So we were like, hey, if anyone ever asks you guys to, you know, hop on a webinar or speak on stage or like join a panel, even if you're super nervous, you don't know it, just say yes, commit to it. And you know, putting yourself out there, that's how you grow. So really good tip, man.
Yeah, and Ali, I would say too, like, kudos to you first of all for just being here and asking questions. There's a lot of people that sit on the sidelines. In fact, there's probably people watching now or will be in the future that won't ever say anything to you guys or to me. They're just going to listen in the background, and it's good. First of all, it's good that they're here watching, but when you start asking questions and you vulnerably show up and say, I don't feel confident about X, how can I get support on that? And you ask it to guys like us, because, like, I've been through this. Like, if anybody hasn't learned about my story, just go and here, I'll actually share another link with you guys here. But I've got a guide that I created that's really speaks a bit about my background, but also our methodology and our process too. And I go into detail on that because I used to hold back on my own personal story, thinking that it needed to be polished, and like, who's gonna want to work with me if it's not a perfect story from, you know, rags to riches. But it's been a struggle. Like, on a personal level, my wife and I have had a couple of losses of babies along the way that were really late term, and it just destroyed us for like 3-4 years. Our relationship, the way that we looked at life, everything. And now we've got 2 boys, and you know, we tried so hard for that, and we actually went through surrogacy, and we spent like $100,000 to go through all of that. And now we've got a 2-year-old and an 8-month-old, and these 2 little monsters like keep us up all hours of the nights. And it's just the journey that we're on, though. You know, like, we want so bad for something to happen, and then it doesn't, and you feel gutted, and then you get it, and then you're like, oh my God, what did we do? And it's just a roller coaster. It's life, right? So just be willing to step up and realize that whatever you're going through, somebody's been through it before. So be wise enough to learn from your mentor's mistakes. That's a huge one. That's a huge one for me and anybody else that's watching.
So for anyone out there that doesn't have a mentor, how do they go out and find a mentor, Trevor?
Oh, I think in today's world, there's so many avenues to do so, like showing up to Facebook Lives like this and just seeing who resonates with you, right? And then, you know, one of the other key things, I think, is, you know, you can Google things anywhere nowadays as far as finding a mentor, but don't follow too many people is the one piece of advice I would give you, is that if you are going to commit to somebody's methodology and somebody's philosophy on how they can best support you, then go all in on them. You know, don't second guess yourself. Don't follow 15 gurus online, because they're all going to tell you something different. They will, because there's no one perfect way to do anything. It's just about consistency. It's about buying into a process, trusting it, and seeing it through. So that'd be my best advice on that. Like my mentor, or one of my mentors, is a guy by the name of Scott Oldford, and their whole team that's over there. And I know you guys know who Scott is, but you know, like my trust with Scott built over almost a year and a half. Like I didn't commit to actually working with their team for at least a year and a half. And the reason why I ended up working with Scott was because of his transparency and what he was doing. Like he was blowing up his businesses all over the place. And at first I looked at it and went, oh God, this guy's like way too unstable for what I'm trying to do. Like I need somebody that's got it dialed in. And then eventually I started to realize, like, wait a second, the people that are saying that they got it perfectly dialed in, they're not being truthful, because nobody's got it perfectly dialed in and nobody's got the perfect life. Like we go through ups and downs. So I started to trust a guy like Scott because I saw him go through that roller coaster. And now I've followed in his path in the same way of trying to show up that way. So, you know, if your mentor seems like they have the perfect life, they're not the right mentor for you, is my opinion. You want to see people that have failed numerous times and jump in knowing that you're going to learn from all the mistakes that they've made along the way.
That's so good, man. It's a really good tip.
Great
It's a really good tip. Really good advice. When it comes to mentors, and like I'm curious as well, like just like Patty, but like when it comes to mentors, like you mentioned Scott is one of your mentors. So do you have a mentor for like different, you know, different aspects of your life? Like do you have a mentor for like your fatherhood life and your business career life, you know?
Yeah, totally, man. You know, they've kind of started to overlap a little bit just because I've realized how much all these things are tied together. Like, you know, having a business mentor that's only going to teach you about business, but not how to handle when your relationship goes to crap because your money situation's struggling, or when your kids are screaming at 4 a.m. every single night and not giving you any sleep. So they're starting to bleed over into each other. But, you know, there's another guy by the name of Dr. Nima Rahmani that you guys might know too. He's in Vancouver here. We've become good friends. We've done a lot of Facebook Lives together talking about entrepreneurship and mindset and that type of thing. But he's been, you know, of sorts a mentor and a good friend of mine as well. And I think just surrounding yourself with people that can relate to what you're going through in all aspects of life is really important. It's about leveling up, right? And knowing that your pain right now, your mess that you're in, your mess is truly your message. Like that's my philosophy on this is I don't hide from the fact when we have bad months. Like we're transparent about it, but we also say, you know, but like November and December, these past few months have probably been our lowest revenue producing months of the last 12. And in January, we're on pace here because we have a bunch of deposits and a bunch of new people that are starting up. Like January is going to be incredible. In fact, we're going to have a whole new problem with how we're going to keep up with everything. But that didn't happen by accident. That happened because we've worked our butts off the last 2 months producing content and building out online courses and training materials and just adding value, right? So just got to stay at it. And surround yourself with good people. Show up to stuff like this, ask questions. Yeah. It's really quite simple. Just got to stay committed to it.
Stay committed. There you go.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to wrap this up. I think, you know, we went from like LinkedIn to mentorship and everything in between. So Trevor, always so good to talk to you, and everyone that's live watching us. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure, you know, if you guys have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. Trevor's part of our community and our Thinkific Facebook group community. So drop a question there. Patty?
Yeah, thanks, mate. That was absolutely amazing. And I know that this is definitely one of the highlight Facebook Lives for me, for sure, mate. Learned tons. It was even better the second time around. So glad we were able to get this one recorded. Thank you everyone for joining us on the live as well. And mate, if there's anything else we can do, to support you, obviously let us know in 2019. We love what you're doing, mate.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, guys. And just kudos to you for being consistent with what you're doing here too, because you're showing up to provide value to this audience that's desperate for a voice that's going to tell them the truth and what they can do to actually be successful. Because, you know, you guys see it every day. You have thousands of users on your platform and you see the success stories, and there's people sitting on watching this for the very first time that might be inspired to go, you know what, maybe I can do this in 2019 because the tools are there, the people are there to learn from. And if you're not doing stuff like this, you know, helping educate and answer questions, then how is anybody ever going to know? So It's awesome what you guys are doing. I look forward to connecting at your offices and at these conferences and stuff in the coming months here. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
No, thank you, mate. Thank you so much.
So good.
Thank you to our amazing audience. Thank you to Ali. Thank you to everyone that joined us. Ali in particular, thank you. We hope you learned loads from that today. And yeah, look, thanks ever so much for joining us on these Facebook Lives. We're looking forward to hosting a lot more. I think around the February time, we're going to change our early morning lives, I think, to 8 a.m. So we're gonna have less dark circles on my eyes. Maybe. But yeah, like we obviously love hosting these lives, and let us know if there's anyone in particular, if you want Trevor to come back, if you want anyone else that you've been thinking of to come and join us, just let us know in the comments or give us a shout out in the Facebook group.
And one last thing, Trevor, where can people connect with you? Drop your links there, but best way to connect with you.
Yeah, I just dropped a link to you there, Rob, to we've got a Facebook community as well that's built around connecting solopreneurs that are in that selling B2B services space. So we're very specific about what we're sharing in that group and whatnot. So if anybody wants to join that, they can definitely do so. And then, connect with me on LinkedIn. It's in the stream there. I think Rob already added it. And just give me some context to the fact that you watch this live stream as well, because it just helps me understand what's working to be able to get in front of people. So yeah, just reach out to me on either one of those. Happy to connect.
Amazing. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, Trevor. And we'll see you at we'll see you in 2019.
Yes.
Sounds good, guys. Happy holidays. Talk to you soon.
Holidays. Bye-bye.